Hello, everybody. My name is Heather Fromack, and I am the Director of Outreach and Consulting Services at HSLDA, and we are so glad you're here. We would love to know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear how your homeschooling journey is going, whether you're just starting or a veteran homeschooler. We would love to hear from you. And today, we get to check in with our friend, Sarah Grinnell, who just started homeschooling this year. What a year to start homeschooling.
Yes, that's the truth.
Oh my gosh. So in some ways, Sarah, you were ahead of the game, and in other ways, what an impact to your first year. So for those who are watching who are not familiar with your story, why don't you give us a little context for where you are today?
Okay, I'll give you a quick history and then tell you where we are today. So one of the reasons we started this series was because I came from the corporate world, and then I chose to stay home with my 3 kids, and then I also ended up being a homeschool mom, none of which was really planned initially. So this past year was our first year of homeschooling. I have 3 kids. I have a 10-year-old daughter who went to public school for 5th grade this past year. I have an 8-year-old son who was home for 3rd grade for the first time this past year. And I had a 3, she turned 4 this spring, year-old daughter. Who was in private preschool until this spring.
Yes. So I'm seeing a pattern here until this spring. So let's talk about what happened in the spring. The pandemic, of course, which affected everybody. Tell us how that affected your brand new homeschool.
So it's funny. So you think it wouldn't, at first glance, maybe it wouldn't impact it a lot because we're already at home, right? Mm-hmm. But it did. It took away the library. It took away the opportunity to go to playgrounds. We didn't get to see friends. We didn't even go to the grocery store anymore. And on top of that, my 3/4-year-old, who was in preschool 2 mornings a week, now was suddenly home every day. Which was a huge change. I didn't realize how much I'd utilize those 2 mornings a week that she was gone. We have a curriculum that's all planned out for us, but sometimes I would move things around if I saw a difficult activity coming up, something that required a lot of mom time. We'd move it to a Tuesday or Thursday morning so that it was just me and my son.
Right.
And suddenly my youngest was home all the time and I didn't have that opportunity. So it definitely threw us off our game a little bit.
So how did you handle that? I'm just curious, what kind of strategies did you implement that worked? And maybe you want to tell us some that didn't work too.
So it was tricky to pivot. I think at first it was kind of fun for everybody to be home. It was a little exciting. My kids weren't super scared about the pandemic or anything. And so it was kind of a new adventure. My littlest, preschool would post videos periodically on Facebook, or they would still send us craft activities. And so that was fun. And we had spring break and we were supposed to go camping, but we camped in the backyard instead. And
that's clever.
I think in the beginning it was, sort of an adventure. And then come, the end of April, May, we're really starting to slog through.
Adventure time is over.
Yes. I tried as best as I could. My oldest was in public school and was doing it online. So she had some downtime. She could choose when to do assignments. And so I would have her play with my youngest sometimes when I was working with my son on homeschool activities. Sometimes my youngest would join in for homeschool activities. We had a fair amount of, hands-on crafts and activities and things. And so I just make it easier for her, or she would just watch if she couldn't actually participate. And she'd listen in for read-alongs. So we tried to kind of make it a family affair as much as we could.
I love that you call it a read-along. That's so cute. I've heard read-aloud. I like read-along. We're just reading along together. So now that you've had this time where everybody's been home, you sort of were forced into trying homeschooling everybody. How has that informed your plans for the fall?
So we're going to homeschool everybody this fall. Since my oldest would have been doing distance learning anyway, and I already homeschool 1, we figured we'd just do all 3. My youngest is in preschool, and I find I don't really need a lot of curriculum for her. She just kind of tags along with big brother and sister. So really homeschooling 2 and kind of entertaining the 3rd one.
Right.
So that's our plan for this fall. I'm still working out, do we need to set up a specific timeline so that mom can interact with one child and then the next, or are we going to kind of wing it like we did this year? I'm not really sure what's going to work the best. We're just going to kind of start slow. I think we're going to start in August and do like half days to start with, and just slowly get everybody up to speed and see how we do.
That is a really good idea. And for our viewers watching, tell us what your plans are for the fall. Tell us what kind of thoughts you have and questions you might have for starting homeschooling in the fall, or maybe you've chosen not to homeschool, you're still struggling with that content and that topic. But I would like to know, this is the big question, did you finish all the curriculum that you started? You began. Did you actually have a day when you finished?
We did. We actually finished everything in early June. Our state waived the testing requirement for this year, but we tested anyway because I thought it would be good practice, right?
Yeah, right.
We don't, no pressure because we don't have to submit scores, so just see how we do. So we did that, and that took kind of an extra couple days at the end after we finished officially. But yes, we did get through all the curriculum. We're reviewing some math this summer just to make sure. We did a mastery curriculum. We did Math Mammoth, and since it's not Spiral, we went back this summer to kind of hit all the topics to make sure we didn't forget anything.
So as you're looking to the fall, do you think you'll continue with the curriculum you chose, or were you happy with it? Or are you moving towards more confidence, thinking that you might try some other things?
So we're sticking with the curriculum that we had last year. We used Heart of Dakota, so we're obviously moving up to like the next guide level, and then I placed my daughter appropriately in her correct guide. We did add in a co-op, so they'll be getting history and science at a co-op, and our Heart of Dakota curriculum also comes with history and science. So depending on how intensive co-op is, we can add in some more at home. If co-op itself is enough, then we'll kind of skip those pieces of Heart of Dakota and focus on the language arts and the rest of it. So we're kind of, again, we're playing it a little fast and loose like we did this year.
Yeah. You're expressing a lot of confidence with that flexibility, which is great. And I also am hearing you be creative with this whole schedule planning. And we have Sabrina who has asked, how long is your homeschool day normally? Because you had mentioned starting with half days, but it's going to be a little different too, because you're going to move from one child to all three children. But I really like that idea. You're going to start early, have shorter days. Help our viewers understand what your thoughts are around that.
So when I say half days, I mean we're going to do like half of our tasks. I don't mean it actually takes half the day, like from breakfast to lunch. So our curriculum is laid out. You have 2 pages covers a day. There's a left side and a right side. So we'll do like the left side one day and the right side one day is what we'll do. But last year, it's hard to really say because we would start in the morning and then we'd go grocery shopping and then we would maybe see a friend and then we'd come back and we'd do a little more before lunch and then we'd have a break and then I'd put my youngest down for a nap and then we'd finish up during nap. So our days started around like 8:15. I think we usually tried to start, and including breaks and lunch and various activities, we were usually done by 2 or 2:30. But probably only really like 3 hours of school, maybe.
Right.
Not super long. He was in 3rd grade, and I just had. It's not a super long day in elementary school.
It's not, and it doesn't need to be. It can be longer if you want to add a lot of fun things to it.
Yes.
But you, do you think now that you're going to have your older child at home as well, how is that going to affect your schedule? Or what our viewers don't know is that Sarah is about to enter in the nirvana of homeschooling experiences, because everybody has left the house and she has how many days to plan for school?
Until Saturday.
Oh my word. Just makes me giddy thinking about it. Okay, so you're going to be planning, and I'm sure your schedule will be informed by that plan. But at this 5 minutes of time, what is your thoughts about what your schedule will be like now that you're adding an older child as well?
So my oldest is really independent, and she's an early riser. So I'm hoping that she will get up early, and that maybe I will get up early with her, and that we can go over her activities for the day, any input that she needs from me, if we need to review things or if I need to, read something out loud with her, we can kind of knock some of that out even before my son is up. And get her started. And then she can kind of take care of the rest of her morning by herself, coming to me with questions as needed. And then I'm hoping like by lunch, she's ready to come in and check in and say, here's, my stuff, let's review it. And she's done for the day. That could be super optimistic. I don't know.
Well, that's the part of the homeschooling rhythm. What I'm hearing from you is, different people need to plan their schedules differently. Some people need a routine that's very systematic every day. And I have one child, actually, I think my oldest and my youngest, so my bookends, really needed a routine. Every day it's, what's the plan, Mom? And if I don't know, because I'm really okay not knowing, like, we'll get to it, it was stressful for them. And so for them, I needed a routine. This comes first, this comes next, this comes next, and by this time we'll be done. Other people, and what I'm hearing you describe, is more of a rhythm mentality. Like, we're going to get this done at some point in the morning, and then the afternoon we'll hit this. And all your kids are comfortable with that kind of organic routine throughout the day?
I think so. We'll see.
Yeah.
I haven't had my oldest at home yet, so but she's, like I said, she's pretty independent and can work at her own pace. So I think she'll be okay. For my son last year, I always wrote down all of his tasks and gave him some choice in what he wanted to do first and what he wanted to do next. I think he'll lose a little bit of that this year because I will have both of his sisters to also contend with. So it may be, here you have a half-hour block to do independent work. And you can choose which independent assignment, maybe it's math or grammar or some, reading a book, but you have to do something independent in this half hour.
Right.
Mom cannot help you right now.
Yes.
Whereas he used to kind of say, I want to do a science experiment first. And, I was always available, so I could help him. So I think it'll be a little bit different, but I'm hoping to still give him some choice and flexibility where I can.
And are you thinking of some of your curriculum also being shared together this time?
That's not the way I have it set up this year.
Okay.
They're doing two different curriculums. I think sharing creates competition between my kids.
Okay.
It's not true for everybody's kids, but I can see a lot of I got finished first, or I did better, or look, my handwriting is better than yours, that kind of stuff. And so we're just going to do separate things this year.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to combine.
Yeah. Well, and that shows that you're just like every parent who is really considering this right now. You're studying your kids and you're thinking what is going to work best, not just for school, not just for the academic subjects, but for the family dynamics, for the relationships. We have this big issue in our family. We have an L-shaped couch, and when we do read alouds, everybody wants to sit in the corner. It's this ridiculous conflict moment every time. So I have to alternate days. Basically, the person who makes breakfast gets to sit in the corner. So, all of those things come as you're navigating these different opportunities to be together and share life in these new ways. So as you look for the fall, how did you feel the things that worked last year you're going to continue to implement? And are there some things that you're like, nah, that didn't work for us, we're not going to do that in the fall?
So we joined a co-op for the fall. So that's different. And I'll be teaching pretty regularly at the co-op.
Oh, really? What are you teaching at the co-op?
I'll be teaching middle school science.
Oh, wow, good for you.
I'm actually kind of excited. So I think it'll be good. That means that I think my son is going to lose some flexibility in his science program. So last year we winged science. That was actually one of the things that really affected us with the pandemic. We didn't buy a science curriculum. We were using the library and DVDs almost exclusively for science. So when the library closed, science became very difficult.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so since I'm teaching science and I'm going to have that time devoted, to getting lessons prepared, we're going to use the science that comes with the Heart of Dakota curriculum this year, just so I have what's planning to do. So we're going to do that. We're going to stick with the same math curriculum. What else are we going to change? I don't know what else we're going to change.
And were you happy with how much it cost at the end of the day, or did you find from a financial perspective or even a planning and time perspective that there were some unexpected expenses?
So I think overall I was okay with the cost. I didn't spend a ton. I got a lot of things used. Last year a friend gifted me some of the Heart of Dakota curriculum that she had left over, as long as I just paid for postage, which was amazing. And the rest of the books I bought used. I bought again used this year. There's a ton of, if you're brand new to homeschooling, there are so many used buy, sell, trade sites for
yes. Can you list a few that you've been using?
Okay, so I use the Heart of Dakota buy, sell, trade.
Okay, makes sense.
There's an Apologia group. There's an IEW group.
So it's curriculum specific. You're finding curriculum specific Facebook groups where you can share or sell curriculum.
Yeah, so there is, I've heard tell of a homeschool marketplace on Facebook. I have not actually used it because I kind of know what I like so far.
Right.
And I don't want to be inundated with posts. So I join the specific groups that I'm interested in buying. But you could certainly, there's tons of groups.
I really admire you because you have really found the things that you're comfortable with, and you don't seem to be one of those homeschoolers like me who is tempted to look at all the other shiny new approaches, and that really helps a lot in finishing. If you can decide at the beginning, this is good enough, we're happy with this, and stick with it, you have much better chances of actually completing a subject or a curriculum at the end of the day.
Yes. So I think one of my biggest pieces of advice, and I know this is a question later, but maybe you'll let me give another piece of advice too.
Yes, please.
My biggest pieces of advice is to not exhaust yourself looking at all possible resources. There are so many homeschool curriculums. And so what I would say is you probably know a couple of homeschoolers, even if you're brand new. So there's somebody in your circle that homeschools. Ask them what they used. That's where I started. I asked literally like 3 friends what they used. And one of my friends said, Heart of Dakota is literature rich. It's great. I love books, It's Christian. Great. Faith is important to me. And it's all planned out for you. Great. Let's plan an increment. Check 3 boxes. And so that's what we did. And I like it. It's not perfect. Maybe if I looked around, I could find something better. But is it worth the stress and the effort and the time I would spend? I don't know. So, I think, pick 1 or 2 things that are important to you. Choose a curriculum based off that. And then if it doesn't work, you can pivot. That is the benefit of homeschooling. But don't go crazy.
Don't go crazy looking at stuff. That is a really wise nugget for people to take, because you can get so exhausted trying to find the best that you never land on good enough. And there's that balance with finding something that is working for your child, and also just relaxing and knowing that's going to be fine for your family, and that those other dynamics are of you having margin, you having enjoying the process is just as important as the curriculum, especially. So did you attend any webinars or conferences or other resources that you found to be helpful?
Actually, I haven't. So I feel pretty good about how we did this year. I like our curriculum. I don't want to get overwhelmed with all the options that are out there. My kids are still pretty young, so I'm not worried about transcripts and academic recording and all that kind of stuff yet.
Right.
So I didn't choose to attend any webinars or anything this year.
Well, there's a lot of good ones out there now, and one that HSLDA is being a part of is Reimagine Education Conference. If people are interested, there's going to be a ton of different options for webinars, for workshops, for resources. So I do recommend that. But you were keeping it simple this year.
Yes, I try not to, make it overly complicated.
Yeah,
not that there's not good information out there, but I know where some of my kids' weaknesses are. Like my son is not, doesn't have great executive functioning skills. Like we're not good at time management, we're not good at organization, and so I've already sourced, a couple of books I'm working my way through. It's called Smart But Scattered, and it's
that's a great book. Yes, I'm familiar with that book.
I'm like chapter 7, and it's amazing so far. And so I've already sourced a couple things to try to help, me get my head around how I can help him, and I just feel like adding in more webinars just adds in more stuff. So I'm trying to keep it simple.
And that's a good point about summer too. This is a great time to just be reading stuff like that can inform your school year when you move into it, and especially as you're planning too. That's a great idea. Smart But Scattered. Any other books you'd recommend for our watchers to read?
I don't know. There's a ton of homeschool books out there. I've read a few of them. I can't remember. There's a couple sites that I really like. I really like the Read Aloud Revival, Sarah Grinnell. She has some great tips on keeping it simple, especially for the young elementary set. I see a lot of parents concerned about, their kindergartner's not going to be ready for first grades, and so they're going to be homeschooled this year. And what if their first grader isn't ready for second grade? And it's really not hard to school kids at that young of an age. They learn through play and through reading, and there's really no need to worry. So I love Read Aloud Revival. So if you don't follow that site, follow that site.
And may I put a plug into HSLDA's website and our Mom Possible website? Both have a lot of resources, both videos and written, and suggestions for different links you can follow as well for those specific things.
Well, especially for the older set, I do see a lot of parents concerned, they're just going to pull their child for 1 year for homeschooling, and they're in high school. And, how do they make sure that they get credit if you're going back? And I know HSLDA has a whole site dedicated just to high school and like college prepping support, how to do transcripts, how to make sure you get credit, all that stuff. So yes, HSLDA has a ton of information available on their site too.
Yeah, and let me just pivot off of that a little bit. I mean, one of the teams that I manage are our educational consultants. We have 11 educational consultants on staff, and these are veteran homeschooling moms with expertise in just exactly what you're saying, high school, special needs, early years. So if that's something you need in terms of somebody to talk to help really streamline this process, that's a wonderful resource to know about too. So what encouragement or advice do you have for families that are looking at other options or considering homeschooling seriously? You've talked about really keeping it simple. You've talked about contentment with finding something that's good enough and sticking with it. You've also talked about some really helpful tips on being mindful of how your kids interact with each other as you're planning. So what are some other things that you might say as someone who's just finished homeschooling and for your first year, and you're also observing probably around you, maybe friends who are just considering it for the first time? What kind of advice would you give?
So keep it simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. There's a lot of information out there, a lot. But the other thing I would say is use that information. So I've seen a lot of people, come to a Facebook group and say, I have a third grader. What's the best curriculum? Well, that's a really hard question to answer. I don't know what's important to you. I don't know anything about your child. So I would say go to the source. Go to friends that have homeschooled. Go to HSLDA. If your state has a home educators association like mine does, go to your state's webpage. Go to your county's webpage to find out. My county has a page about homeschooling and how to withdraw your child and how to integrate them into public school. So they have information. Go to the curriculum webpage that you're interested in. So definitely go to the source. It's okay to ask questions, ask lots of questions, but get your information from, the primary source. Primary sources are great.
And what about things that you might caution against? Are there things that you did this last year that really felt like a mistake or something you definitely wouldn't want to do again, or something you would caution people about?
I would caution against getting, stuck in a curriculum, right? So if you have a guide or if you have a set plan, don't be afraid to pivot. I like the curriculum we're in. It's really good. But some of my favorite memories from this year are things that I hadn't really planned, or things that my son got really interested in that I had no idea he would be interested in. So for the last few weeks of the year, I didn't really have a science plan because I kind of exhausted our resources at home. Didn't know what else to do. But for history, we were studying the Wright brothers, and he was fascinated by flight. And so our last few weeks of science were making paper airplanes and watching YouTube videos about the world record paper airplane maker, and watching other YouTube videos about kids making paper airplanes and printing out science experiments about paper airplanes. So just being able to run with your kids' interests, having some flexibility. Parents, we know your kids, and if you don't, this is a great opportunity to take time to get to know them. And just relax and go with the flow. I think I can say that because my kids are younger. I think I know for the older middle school and the high school set, it's, you have things that you have to accomplish. You have a certain order that you have to take your classes in. So I'm not really talking to those people. I'm not there yet in my journey.
Exactly.
But for the younger set, enjoy it. I know some parents, you're single parents and you're being pushed into homeschooling, or you're working full time and you're being pushed into homeschooling. You feel like it's sort of a last resort, but it can still be fun. Your kids just want to spend time with you. They really do. We definitely have our moments where my kids don't act like they want to spend time with me. But I've watched my son's confidence just soar this year. Being able to do the things that he's interested in, getting to explore, science as much as we did this year, which he loves. Those kinds of things are really great, and they make it worth it.
I think that's an interesting point that you're bringing up. What do you think it was about the homeschooling that really helped your son's confidence?
So school, he's really bright and really likes to learn. He reads nonfiction books for fun, like other kids read Harry Potter, right? So, he loves to learn, and school just didn't work for him. Between his organization and time management skills that were lacking, he just couldn't get it together, to get his assignments turned in, to find his assignments in his desk. And so being able to be at home where I can work with him on those skills one-on-one, where we can explore the things that he really loves, and he's not learning about, magnetism for the third year in a row at school. I felt there were some science units that got repeated at school, and he just wasn't, he wasn't loving it. And so I think being able to express himself in school, at home was great. And, he learned how to ride a bike this spring, which he had never wanted to do before. Like, had zero interest in learning how to ride a bike. And so just, that wasn't really part of our homeschool. I wasn't making him ride a bike. He just decided he was going to learn. And that, to me, just showed how much he'd grown and his level of confidence in himself, that he believed he could do it. And so there's just been moments like that this year where he really thrived, and it was great for him. And I'm hoping it's great for my other two as well.
Well, I think you're expressing too just the benefits of learning as a lifestyle. I mean, you might not learn how to ride a bike on your school schedule that day, but because you're together and you're sharing life, those delight-directed opportunities can come up, just like with your flight. So you're showing a really neat combination, sort of an eclectic approach where you're using a traditional curriculum, but you've got margin in your day for delight-directed things. So if your son's really interested in something, you can really expand upon that and let him dive in and really enjoy it. And you get to learn about flight too. I bet you know a lot more than you started with, right?
Oh my gosh, we watch things about wind tunnels, and I mean, it's nuts. Yeah. So, and that's another thing I would tell parents. You don't have to be an expert in all these things. You don't have to be an expert in math to teach your kids math. Get a math workbook and do it with them and learn side by side, and that actually boosts their confidence. Sometimes have them explain it to you. Hey, what did you learn today? Oh, I learned how to multiply, 3-digit numbers, and have them show you how to do it. And I didn't know that, and it's a way to build their confidence. It's a way to build your confidence, because you can learn right alongside them. So
That's right. That's right.
I mean, there's so many great things about homeschool. There really are. I mean, there's some, we get sick of each other. We really do. There are days that everybody has to go to their own room, right? But there's so many benefits. And I know a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be really hard this year. And there are certainly going to be challenges. But will it be worth it? Yes, it will be.
That's an awesome testimony. We have a couple of questions here from our viewers. Let's see. So Becky is asking, how did you make sure you had some mommy time each day? Now, I think she means, how did you make sure you had time for yourself? That's what I'm thinking. And that's an excellent question. Did you hide in the bathroom? Was that necessary, or a closet, or did you find something a little more creative?
No. So we use electronics sometimes. So, sometimes if mommy's downtime, my littlest one watched a show, and my son played, Prodigy. We tried to gear it towards something educational, but sometimes he just played on the iPad. And, mom closed her eyes on the sofa for half an hour because mom was tired.
Yeah.
But my husband gets up early for work. The alarm goes off at 5:30. So I try to get up at 5:30 and exercise and have a quiet time before anybody else is even up, because otherwise it doesn't really get fit in.
Yeah.
So I actually, just this week, I made my daughter sort of my accountability partner, because I feel like she and I need that time also. So she's getting up, not at 5:30, but I had her get up at 6:45 the last 3 mornings to meet me in the basement, because that's where I'm supposed to be to exercise. And so she meets me downstairs, and I'm all sweaty, but I've had my quiet time, and then I have quiet time with her. And so just the 3 days of that has been nice. So I hope we can continue that. Make time for myself and make time for her. She's entering her tween years and needs a little bit of that guidance. So
that's really beautiful. You're creating a real tapestry in the fabric of your relationships because of this extra time you have. Even small little things like that. I can speak as someone who's graduated 3 of our 5 kids. Those little things that you might not even think too much about, they become really valuable and rich memories for your kids as time goes on. So Deborah also mentions that she's just glad that you're mentioning how doable this is, I think is what she's saying, because she's seen so many comments from parents who think they can't do it because they're single parents or work full time, but it can be done. It's creative. It can be challenging, but the choreography, I'm hearing you say, and I'm here to testify too, is really worth the effort.
Yes, I think it is. And I know I'm not in those positions. I have my husband, and he goes off to support our family, and I'm not working. And so, I'm very blessed with our situation where we are. But I totally think I've seen a lot of other parents say that, they do work and they make it work, for their kids to homeschool. And so it definitely can be done. There are testimonies out there of people that do it. And they do it well. Their kids don't suffer, their kids graduate, their kids go to college. And so it definitely can be done. And especially like for my experiences for the younger set, just read and do math, read a lot. And really read nonfiction, read fiction, read comic books, read
advice. Yeah. And make paper airplanes when it becomes
appropriate.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. This has been exciting to see just how you have fleshed this journey out over this last year. You've done a fabulous job. You're really kind of radiant, to tell you the truth. I mean, maybe you always are like this, but when I met you the first time, you were just thinking about it. It was sort of like, yeah, I think we got this. And now you're just ready, like, yes, we got this. It's good. Give it a try. So it's wonderful to see your story and your journey. And I'm sure we'll circle up with you again. Thank you so much to all of our viewers. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And goodbye. Happy homeschooling.
Bye.